Shabbat Shalom. Before I begin, ich will sagen ein paar Wörter. I'd like to say a few words. We have been severely distressed in recent days by the travesty that involved George Floyd and all of the reverberations south of the border and extending worldwide. We are concerned by a resurgence of racism and anti-Semitism. And of course, we are still challenged by the ongoing pandemic. And locally, the travesty that has affected our nursing homes and the lack of caring that was given to our most needy and challenged citizens, and in many cases, family members. So these are difficult times. I want to offer a quote from our Prime Minister Trudeau. Is that 21 seconds? Friends, I don't mean this comment to be a criticism of our Prime Minister, because I feel that his reaction when asked a question about his feelings as to how President Trump has handled the current crises the US is facing, I felt his response was very appropriate. There are times when silence speaks loudly, and sometimes there aren't the appropriate words or any words to meet the needs of the moment when we are so challenged. And so the world might be a better place at some time, and at some point, were more of us to appreciate the eloquence of silence when we don't really have what to say. But thankfully, I have what to say today, but on a different topic. And I'll begin with a story. The story is about a dear colleague of mine and friend of blessed memory, Rabbi Erwin Groner, Alav Shalom, who was rabbi for many years of Sharet Tzedek congregation in Southfield, Michigan, whom I got to know very well in many situations. He was, like me, a past president of the Rabbinical Assembly, but served many years ago at the very beginning of my rabbinate. And he told a story as how he, like other presidents of the RA, including me, would have occasional invitations to the White House. And in this particular case, it was President Carter. He was invited to a briefing, and happened to be an election year, so in that case, there was a photo op, meaning that after the presentation, you'd line up and you'd have your picture taken with the president. And you have like 30 seconds to have his ear. And so Rabbi Groner would tell the story that he's waiting in line and contemplating, what should I say to the president? Do I ask him to move the American embassy to Jerusalem? It would take another 40 years for that to happen. Do I ask him to be easier on Israel, to be more supportive of Israel? What do I ask him? And so he gets to the front of the line, he gets to the president, his picture is taken, and he introduces himself, and he says, Mr. President, can I ask you for a favor? The president says, ask. He said, today's my father's 90th birthday. He came to this country from Poland at the age of 14 with nothing. And he'd be so proud that his son today is in the White House meeting the president. And of course, the president said, absolutely. A second picture was taken, sent to Rabbi Groner's father with an inscription. And Rabbi Groner would say that after this experience, he kept asking himself, did I blow it? Should I have pushed on the Jerusalem issue? Should I have pushed on stronger support for Israel? Did I miss an opportunity? But in retrospect, he thought, that wouldn't have happened. My comment to the president in a photo op line would not have changed history. But my dad got the picture, got the photograph of me with the president and Shep Nachas on his 90th birthday. This calls to mind a Talmudic story going back to the period of the Mishnah, to the year 68. It's the second year of the revolt of the Jews against Rome. Jerusalem is under siege. The Jewish fighters guarding Jerusalem were preventing people from leaving the city. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the spiritual leader of that moment, was smuggled out of the city in a coffin in order to be able to assure some continuity of Jewish life. But after this departure, we're told that he happened to meet up with General Vespasian. And he shocked the Roman general by addressing him as emperor, a major breach of protocol. As he's being reprimanded, a messenger comes to Vespasian and tells him that Emperor Nero has died and he, Vespasian, has been proclaimed emperor. Vespasian, of course, was very impressed and maybe a bit frightened by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's ability to foresee the future. And so he said, "What can I do for you? Tell me what you want. I want to do something for you." So what does Rabbi Yochanan ask for? He could have asked for, leave the Jews alone, give them Jerusalem, let them live freely and follow their faith, give them what they want, stop bothering them. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't ask for that. He says in the original Talmudic text, "Ten li Yavna v'chachamecha," give me the city of Yavna and its sages, Shilshilta de Rabban Gamliel, the dynasty of Rabban Gamliel, rabbinic dynasty, Basfata des Messiah le Rabbi Tzadok, and doctors to heal Rabbi Tzadok. He asked for what could be viewed and was viewed as three very small things. Doctors for Rabbi Tzadok, who used to fast all the time. He was very pious. He was always very weak, always on the brink of death. He needed medical assistance. So that he asked the emperor. And to ensure a rabbinic dynasty, okay. And Yavne, a little town. And Rabbi Akiva says, "Bist du Meshiga?" He didn't speak Yiddish, but he said, "I can't believe what happened here. I can't believe that. I think Rabbi Yochanan lost his mind." He says, quoting Isaiah, "God turns wise men backward and their knowledge into foolishness." Doesn't make any sense. He could have asked for the world. He had Vespasian in his hand and he asked for Gornish for nothing. But eventually, the Gemara understands where Rabbi Yochanan was coming from. Recognized that he realized he would not get the big thing. He would not be able to change the course of world history at that moment. But even with a small, minimal request, he had the power to change Jewish history. And so he asked for these small things. Got them. I'm glad Rabbi Tzadok got to live a bit longer. The family of Rabbi Gamliel was protected. And Yavne saved Judaism. Small thing. But once Jerusalem was captured, there would have been no continuity of learning, of tradition that would be centered in Jerusalem. There was no ability at that moment to offer sacrifice. No temple. Jewish religious life could have come to an end. But Rabbi Yochanan was onto something. Because in Yavne, literally, the spiritual history of the people of Israel was rescued, and we're living it to this moment in time. Among the list of things that happened in Yavne, the creation of the Amidah, of the prayer to replace the sacrifices that could no longer be offered, the Passover Haggadah, Yom Tov ritual, and even the makeup of the Tanakh of the Hebrew Bible. That was all determined in Yavne, many other things as well. But it enabled Judaism to survive a very dark moment in history and to march forward and to endure through challenge through millennia. Think of what would happen if we had no way to express our faith after the year 70 when there's no more Holy Temple. If all of Jewish prayer had ended, what would have happened? Would we be here today? Would we be having Zoom minyanim during a pandemic where prayer can still bring us together even in a challenging moment of history? Would the concept of minyan exist, of community, that would be central through good times and through terrible times? That direct connection to our earliest past, to the present, and bringing us to the bridge that leads us to tomorrow. The small thing that Rabbi Yochanan requested ended up being enormous, beyond anything that he could have expected. Just as Rabbi Groner, my friend of blessed memory, had the presence of mind not to ask for the big stuff that he wouldn't get, but for something to make his father really happy. That was something small that in truth was big. And in how we face life, especially during challenging moments of history, how we face life says a lot about us, about who we are. Maybe we also should learn not to ask for too much. Don't ask for our kids to become rocket scientists. Some will. We have generations in our shul of rocket scientists and technologists and community and societal leaders. Our community has produced some wonderful offspring. But that's not necessarily going to be the destiny of everybody. What do you want? What do you want for your kids? You want them to be mentioned. You want them to be good. You want them to be decent, caring human beings who are going to shed tears based on what happened in the last couple of weeks in the US, who want to find a way to bring this world to a better place because of a fundamental goodness that's seeped in their DNA. That we can ask for. Be good. Yeah, achieve great things. That will be amazing. Just be good. Be decent. Be there for others to whatever extent you can. That we can ask. That's not huge. But in a sense it is. In a sense it's enormous. It's that small act of love that can achieve great things in the lives of others. And so finally, let me say a word about our parasha. That's why you're all here, of course. And Naso is a very rich portion, a lot of exciting stuff happening, but one of the easy to miss parts of it is just a couple, 3 verses, but which becomes central to Jewish liturgy. Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. And, Yivarecha Hashem Yishmerecha, may God bless you and protect you, and so on. But I want to look at the 3rd stanza of that blessing for a moment. Yisah Hashem panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord shall favor you and bestow peace upon you. The Talmud finds this challenging. Katuv b'Toratecha asher lo yisah panim. God, in your Torah, it is written that you, God, do not favor one person over another. But here in our parasha, it's written, Yisah Hashem panav elecha. God favors the people of Israel over other nations. Here you, God, say, I'm going to favor you. And you also told us not to favor others. So how do you explain this inconsistency? So God, according to the Agadah, says, you're right. But how could I not favor Israel? Look how you have favored me. The Torah taught, V'achalta v'savata u'berachta, after eating your fill, you shall bless the Lord your God. You shall bench. But what amazes me, God says, according to the Talmud, So often it has happened that a Jew has had very little to eat. But even after a kazayit, a portion of food the size of an olive, that Jew may still be hungry, but he will still offer a prayer of thanks. That poor Jew will still bench. In such a way, God says, you favor me, so Yisah Hashem panav elecha. I'm going to favor you. The truth is, historically, we've not asked for the big stuff. We haven't asked for a lot. We followed the example of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, asked for something small. So often, even a kazait, even an olive's worth, has satisfied us, kept our spirits alive. In about 10 weeks from now, we're going to begin to recite in our prayers, morning and evening, the 27th Psalm. Included in that beautiful psalm are the following words. Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem, otah avakesh. One thing have I've asked of the Lord, that I will seek after. Shavti b'veit Hashem, shifti b'veit Hashem, kol yemei chayai. That I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. L'chsot b'noam Hashem u'levaker b'hechalo. To behold the beauty of the Lord, to be part of his holy sanctuary. Achat sha'alti. One thing I asked of God, the psalm says. Not 5 things, not 3, not 2, 1. Not a lot to ask, one thing. That one wish expressed by the psalm, belonging to God, to community, to tradition, to faith. Not a lot to ask for, but an attainable wish. A wish, when realized, has the potential of achieving a great deal. May the words of the psalmist be ours as well. Achat sha'alti. Let's limit our asking, minimize our demands upon each other, focus our needs on those things that really matter. Shifti b'veit Hashem, dwelling in the house of the Lord, being part of family, of community, of tradition. L'chsot b'noam Hashem, focusing on the beauty of the Lord, the beauty that surrounds us, spending our time appreciating the riches that are closest to home. A lot to ask? Not really. An attainable goal? Yeah. A worthwhile achievement? You better believe it. Shabbat Shalom.